Hey everyone, I just quickly wanted to give you the scoop about something that I found extremely disturbing recently. So, about give or take almost 2 weeks ago, I believe this incident took place around July 7th. So that's been about 11 days. But it was just recently reported that a 74-year-old man was brutally attacked by a group of six young men slash teenagers. They're calling them juveniles, so I'm gonna assume that all of them must be around the age of 15 to 18. Let's just go there. Regardless of their ages, there's an issue at hand, which is crime is going through the roof, and we're seeing an uptick of these teen takeovers. I just recently reported about the one that took place over at Newport Beach, and it just seems that it just keeps getting worse, and it will eventually create an issue where more people's lives will be at risk. So essentially, this crime that well, we call it a crime, but other people might not think of it in that capacity. Well, let's just say this situation took place because there was a 74-year-old and he was driving to a nearby 7-Eleven. And I'm assuming he thought the 7-Eleven would be open, but little did he know the 7-Eleven, I believe, wasn't open from what I read, but also he got approached by six individuals, and these six individuals proceeded to attack him. One of them pointed a sword at him, and then another one approached him with an assault rifle. I don't know the exact weapon, but I believe it was a rifle. And each of them took turns kicking this man and just pulling him to the ground, punching him, but then they took turns kicking him as well. This is a serious situation, and I just don't know when, to me, especially the fact that they did this to someone who may have a few years to live at best, they should face a harsh penalty for this type of crime. Of course, every life is valuable, but I always believe that if you are a punk and you have the gall to go after the elderly, then you deserve a, a strict punishment for taking taking advantage of someone who can't even defend themselves as well. They're not young enough, they're not mobile enough, and they're not alert enough to know where the threat is coming because they don't have that sense of awareness anymore. They have reached a point in their lives where they're trying to live life comfortably and they don't really take uh these this level of the level of precautions that most people much younger than him would in those type of circumstances. But we're seeing the uprise in crimes, and I think that we really need to figure it out. This happened, I believe it was Baltimore, and I hope that they address the crime. I hope these six individuals are found. And most of all, I hope that they face a harsh penalty for attacking a 74-year-old who was just minding his business, had nothing going on. But these kids are becoming too comfortable committing crimes. And I believe that not only should the child face the penalty for the crime, but the parents should be fined, if not serve a similar sentence to the child, depending on the level of the crime they commit. Just to teach a lesson to the parents that, hey, you need to prepare you need to prepare these kids. And A lot of parents these days aren't preparing their kids. They're just letting them run. Uh, and we're seeing them. We're seeing these parents are just they're coasting through the parental process. And if they're running loose, then eventually it's just going to create issues for everyone else because there is no structure in the home these days. These kids are not taught right from wrong, but in their minds they think wrong is right. And in their minds they think that it's justified attacking a 74-year-old without facing any consequences. So we've reached a point where we have to really enforce the law here. We need to really stop saying, well, they're just kids, they don't know any better. They don't have the fear in God inside of them. They don't fear consequences. So until this is taken much more seriously, these kids will act out and they will not bat an eyelash until we really implement laws where we have strict curfews at the very least, because this attack took place around almost, I think it was around almost 4 a.m. in the morning. Now, I don't know why that old man decided to go to a 7-Eleven around 4 a.m., but that's not my business. But my issue is, why do we have six juveniles if we are going to believe that they are under the age of 18, right? Why do we have six of them? Why do they have weapons, swords, guns? What is this? The parents aren't even slightly aware of what's going on here. I mean, it's just ridiculous that we even have to be afraid of calling this out, but also how this has even become an issue because while you can't unfortunately make a difference in every child's life because every child is different. Not every child is going to learn from the parent. I am going to go on a limb and say most parents these days, that it's just to the point where we're seeing that they're not really teaching their kids anything. They're just trying to be cool and earn brownie points by being the cool parent towards their kids. But we're seeing that this type of soft parenting is what's leading to these kids committing crimes without a second thought. Because if any of us committed these type of crimes, I don't know, 20, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, even longer, some of us would feel guilty about it. Some of us wouldn't even go with the idea of committing this type of crime. But these kids nowadays are far too comfortable. They're just desensitized completely from responsibility, from accountability, from even being moral when it matters. So we're seeing this uprise in teen takeovers, and we need to really figure out what can we do here because these kids are relentless and their parents aren't facing any consequences. And a lot of the time, I would even wager that some of these parents are the reason why these kids end up in this situation in the first place, because you only learn what most of the time what your parents teach you or your caregivers teach you. So parents need to really buckle up and be more strict with their kids. Strict doesn't mean being abusive towards the kids, but strict means you got to tell them when enough is enough. And I think we've reached that point where we're seeing that the longer parents become negligent in their parental duties, the more these teen takeovers are just going to spiral out of control. And it may involve your child, but it may also cost the life of someone else. Luckily, the 74-year-old man didn't have any life-threatening injuries once he went to the hospital because he was able to manage and escape the area. The teens left the scenery as well so that they wouldn't be caught. But luckily, it didn't escalate. But in another case, it could have escalated, and surprisingly, it didn't go too far this time. But there could always be a chance where this might escalate in another different area. a different town, different state, etc. But I just wanted to share with you guys this tidbit. Hopefully, you guys have a wonderful day. Peace out. Thank you, and I'll see you guys later.